A body buried in a backyard, a tiny town rattled, a sister agonized with grief. In this man's bizarre murder, the suspect's brother has a frightening explanation.
All of us, we're nuts. We're all lunatics, every last one of us.
It's taken a year and a half to arrest the accused killer.
But did police protect that man? News 4 investigative reporter Lauren Traeger spent days in Bourbon in Crawford County digging for answers. She learned the murder suspect has a troubling connection to the sheriff's department.
For a year and a half, Crawford County kept a secret. At this rundown home 75 miles outside St. Louis, amidst the outbuildings, some say an act of evil. Past the water tower across town, Kayla Tolliver worried.
He was supposed to come and see me and get his stuff that he wanted for his new place. And that was the morning that I never heard from him.
Her beloved older brother, Edward Hillhouse, a drifter, but in April of 2016, he just disappeared.
I knew something wasn't right.
Why did you feel that way?
Because no matter what, he'd always get a hold of me, good or bad. He wouldn't let me worry.
She turned, as all of us would, to the police.
And I feel like from that moment on, I've been ignored.
Kayla says she put up the posters, pleaded for help. She says police did almost nothing, even when she told them early on of a person who seemed to have information Edward was dead.
A lot of, there's nothing we can do.
Instead, at her dinner table, she pored over clues. Authorities had given her Edward's phone records. The last person to talk to Edward, Deacon Zelch, a guy Edward had recently been hanging out with.
I told him Deacon Zelch nonstop. And they never did anything.
So she asked Deacon herself. In a rambling response, Deacon wrote on Facebook, quote, "All I can say is some people live life fuller as ghost. His spirit just needs a break."
Did you turn that over to the police?
Yes.
And still nothing?
Nothing.
The seasons passed. Deacon wasn't arrested, never even questioned, not even after investigators found 33 marijuana plants on his property in August last year.
I think that because he wasn't the perfect citizen, they didn't care.
In that year and a half, the Bourbon police chief and the Crawford County sheriff both retired. A new chief.
And did you think Deacon Zelch might be a suspect from the beginning?
Early on, yes.
Already familiar with the case, Paul Satterfield, previously a detective in Crawford County.
I felt like I needed to get some fresh eyes on this case, and so that's whenever I hired the task force.
A vice unit from Franklin County with no ties to the area. They got involved, and within days, Deacon was arrested. In September, finally charged both for the marijuana and for murder. Charging documents say investigators spoke with a reliable confidential informant, the very same person Kayla had told police about. The informant stated they witnessed the body of Edward Hillhouse lying on the couch in Deacon's home. The informant saying Deacon admitted to killing Edward with a single shot to the head with a .22 caliber rifle. On September 20th, investigators dug in Deacon's yard and found that body buried along with the remains of a couch. Kayla finally getting answers, though not the ones for which she'd hoped.
It was just a relief. It was terrible. It was such a relief.
But we wanted to know why. Why did it take a separate agency to come to justice?
Do you feel like this was a case of corruption and cover-up?
Yeah. I think that a lot of it was covered up because of who his dad was.
Deacon Zelch, the son of Vernon Zelch, a Crawford County Sheriff's deputy.
You got to be careful what you wish for.
Vernon's so well known around town, he shares opinions on local radio shows. He's been in law enforcement in the area for decades, friends with other officers. But his sons,
We're all lunatics, every last one of us, the whole family.
never could seem to stay out of trouble. Wyatt, Deacon's brother, got out of prison not long ago for drugs and theft.
And the person that you don't see, it's a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde type persona. And I'm not talking my father, I'm talking myself, my brother, my sisters, my mother, the whole family. And we're not nice people. We're not. We weren't raised to be nice. We were raised to be mean and hateful people.
Wyatt says he has no doubt Deacon killed Edward, but would Vernon be involved in a cover-up? Wyatt has a hard time believing that.
It's a little baffling to me.
Amanda Zelch wonders, though. She's Deacon's ex-wife. She says Deacon sometimes threatened her. He once wrote in a letter about her and a friend, "If not for our daughter, I would have filled that hole with yours and that piece of expletives bodies." But it's what Vernon Zelch did after Deacon's arrest that Amanda also found strange.
Maybe he was looking for a murder weapon.
And remember that new chief in Bourbon? He didn't like what Vernon was doing either.
You were concerned about his involvement in the investigation?
I sent messages, letting someone know that I felt like certain people were getting involved that shouldn't be.
But were those messages heard? And did Vernon Zelch interfere with the case?
Mr. Zelch?
We found him on his farm and asked the questions for Kayla.
Whatever it takes for it not to happen to anyone else. Because it's really hard on a family.
So what did Vernon say? And what about Deacon? We wanted to talk to him too. We'll tell you what they both had to tell me in the dramatic second part to this story tomorrow night on News 4 at 6. Lauren Traeger, News 4 Investigates.
In a town south of St. Louis, a man shot in the head and then buried in a backyard.
But for a year and a half, his sister says no one cared. Now she's asking, did police protect a killer?
News 4's Lauren Traeger is in Bourbon getting answers in part 2 of her exclusive, in-depth News 4 investigation.
In April 2016, Kayla Tolliver's brother Edward Hillhouse simply disappeared.
And I told them all I wasn't going to give up. I told all of them.
For 18 months, she agonized. Law enforcement in Bourbon and in Crawford County, she says, ignored her, disregarded vital clues.
I sound crazy. I feel like I just sound crazy, like I'm just one of those people that are rambling and conspiracy or something. But I'm not. I have it all. I have it all documented. I have everything.
All along, she knew something awful had happened.
It's hard knowing that he's close and knowing that as much as he relied on you, you couldn't find him. That was the hardest.
But for 18 months, nothing really happened. Then in September, a special task force from Franklin County got involved, and within days, this man, Deacon Zelch, a friend of Edward's, was charged with his murder. Court records say Deacon Zelch admitted to killing Edward with a single shot to the head with a .22 caliber rifle. On September 20th, investigators dug in Deacon's yard and found Edward's body.
But if it wasn't for Franklin County, we wouldn't have my brother. I honestly believe that.
But we wanted to know why. Why did it take an outside agency to come to justice?
Law enforcement isn't there to ignore you. It isn't about who works there or who your dad is.
You see, the murder suspect, Deacon Zelch, is the son of Crawford County Sheriff's Deputy Vernon Zelch, well known in the community with a lot of friends in law enforcement.
Do you feel like this was a case of corruption and cover-up?
I do. I honestly do.
Things certainly seem strange to other people, too.
It's a little baffling to me that for 17 months, nothing.
Amanda Zelch is Deacon's ex-wife. She says Deacon sometimes threatened her. He wrote in a letter once about her and her friend, "If not for our daughter, I would have filled that hole with yours and that piece of expletives bodies." But it's what Vernon Zelch did after Deacon's arrest that Amanda also found strange.
My daughter comes in and Grandpa's at the door.
Vernon came over wanting to know if Deacon had given her any guns.
He seemed to be looking for a certain caliber type weapon? Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, once because he specifically asked, what caliber was it? And I said a 20 gauge.
Vernon seemed to be relieved, she said, that it wasn't a .22, the same caliber with which Edward had been killed.
Maybe he was looking for a murder weapon.
Bourbon's chief, Paul Satterfield, only came on board this year. He also noticed something that didn't sit well with him. Before taking the post, he was a detective in the Crawford County Sheriff's Office.
We received information early on that Vernon Zelch was inquiring about certain aspects of our investigation. So, that, and of course that information was forwarded to the sheriff.
So what did the sheriff do with that information? Here's Sheriff Darren Lehman. He was number 2 in charge in Crawford County when Edward first disappeared. He knows Vernon well. The two worked together in Sullivan for years. But he wouldn't talk to us, saying the prosecutor wouldn't let him.
Mr. Zelch?
We did, though, catch up with Vernon Zelch on a back road feeding a calf from a bottle. He, too, said he couldn't talk to us when we tried to get answers for Edward's family.
They're concerned that nothing happened in the case for 18 months. They think you might have had something to do with that. Did you?
As I said, I have no comment. I cannot comment.
He denied interfering in the investigation in any way, saying only,
I pray for him every day. They've lost a son. I'm probably going to lose a son. And I pray for them both.
But prayers, Kayla says, aren't enough.
The fact of it is that a deputy's son killed my brother. And I feel like it was covered up for so long.
She wants anyone who may have withheld justice held accountable.
I don't want these people to be able to do this again to anybody else.
Kayla says she's grateful for that Franklin County Task Force, especially Detective Cody Lucas. Franklin County declined to officially comment on this open case. I have talked with some officers who say they did make some attempts to find Edward. For example, when they found that marijuana on Deacon's property last year, police had volunteer cadaver dogs search the area, but they didn't find anything at that time. We put in requests to interview Deacon in jail, and while he first indicated interest in sitting down with us, he later changed his mind. He's got a court hearing on Friday. We will most certainly keep you posted on any development in this story. Lauren Traeger, News 4 Investigates.